Welcome to Arbeit aber anders. Today I'll be talking about joy. And I invited a guest who will be talking with me about joy. His name is Richard Sheridan and he happens to be the author of Joy Inc. So lean back and enjoy. Rich, you are the CEO of Menlo Innovations.
Yes.
And you also refer to yourself as the CEO of storytelling.
Yes.
Which is the role you like more?
I think the role I do more is the storytelling role. And I certainly do enjoy being a storyteller because I found that telling stories, authentic stories, real stories of the story of Menlo, how we came to be, what our core values are, what are the experiences we've had since we've started the company, is the way that we propel our culture as a company forward. So I've just found storytelling to be a very important part of manifesting our culture inside of our company.
Okay, the name of your company is Menlo Innovations,
yes.
Which refers to Menlo Park, the workspace from Thomas Edison, the
yes.
inventor of the light bulb and
yes.
everything. How happened this? How did you come up with the name? Is it just a referral to Thomas Edison? Do you admire him, or is it something that you want to be like this place where great ideas come from, or both?
Well, for me, it actually stems from a childhood memory. There is a park near my hometown called Greenfield Village, where Henry Ford had reconstructed the lab of Thomas Edison. He went to New Jersey, he got every brick, every board, even scooped the dirt up from under the building and moved everything to Dearborn, Michigan and reconstructed this lab. And when I was a kid, I would visit that lab and I would walk in this room and I would just get goosebumps thinking about what happened in this room. It was just, to me, it was such an energizing environment. And when I became an adult and entered into the work world and we started changing how we worked into this big open and collaborative space, I realized that in many ways I was duplicating what I had imagined was that team of Edison's. And when it came time to name the company, I started doing some research on the setup there, how Edison's team worked. And so it was less about Edison himself and more about how his team worked. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Edison had created an environment where people were overhearing each other because he believed, like we do today, that the best ideas come from those moments of serendipity where people overhear the ideas of others and use that to springboard to an even better place that they couldn't have imagined by themselves. So in many ways it's honoring what Edison had first created in that lab and extending that into the modern world of software design and development.
Okay, you're a software development company as
yes.
well as we are.
Yep.
You're talking in the book Joy Inc. a lot about how you work. Do you think this is kind of a blueprint that fits to other business as well, or is it something really typical that works in the software environment?
You know, I don't think that anything we do in particular could only work for software. I think there are a lot of the practices we have, you will find versions of them in other types of businesses. So this isn't just a software company. Happens to be what we do, where we apply it. Mm-hmm. And so we don't spend a lot of time thinking about how this could translate into other businesses. But we have seen other businesses learn from us and use it to change how they work based on what they've learned from their visits, from reading the book and so on.
Okay. Something in the book you're talking about principles. What do you think, how important is to have a joyful surrounding in your company? How important is it to also follow the agile framework? Or do you think it's possible to establish a joyful environment in company without being agile? Do you think that work together or work separately? We
don't spend a lot of time at Menlo talking about agile. We certainly have borrowed a lot of ideas from the agile movement, and but also from Lean and from Six Sigma and from Project Management Institute and Cooper Design and IDEO. I mean, we kind of take this very big view of what we're trying to accomplish. So our fundamental goal is joy, and we define it. We actually look external to the company. So we look outside of our company and we say, what effect do we want to have on the world? And what the effect we want to have is we want to delight people with the work of our hearts, our hands, and our minds. We want the work we do to get out, shipped out into the world, and we want the people who use the software we've created to love it. That is our definition of joy, is to delight others. So our whole focus is of service to other people. And so the first thing we do is look outside our company. Now then the question becomes, what do we have to do inside the company in order to make that goal come true regularly? And so the way we fashion our team, our room, our space, borrows a lot of the principles from Agile, because I think at the core of Agile and Lean, when done well, is about feeding the human energy of your team, about keeping morale and spirit high so we can work on log projects together and get them done, even if we're working really hard at them. How do we make sure we can work with pride? How can we make sure we're producing quality results? How can we make sure we're producing software that will actually delight users in a way that isn't typical for the software industry? So everything we've borrowed from isn't about subscribing to a framework, isn't about making us exactly like a book tells us we should be. We look at everything and say, how do we produce that joy in the world with the things we're doing in the room? And so our basic principles all follow from that.
So let's get into it. What are the principles? I read that you tear down all the walls inside, so you have a big working space. Many people complain about big working spaces because it's too noisy, they can't concentrate and things like that. I mean, there are backsides. What are the advantages, and what else do you do?
Sure. So yes, when you walk into Menlo, we have thousands of people now who actually come and visit us. Any of your listeners could come and see us if they choose to. You can just sign up for a tour. And we have thousands of people a year now who come to see us. And when they open the front doors and walk in, if I'm with them, almost every time the reaction is exactly the same. I can hear it in their voice. They go, wow. Because they can feel the human energy in the room. It is actually palpable. There's noise, there's energy. It's one wide open room. It is, in fact, one of those vilified open office environments you read about, you know, that people say can't work. You know, we need library quiet for software development, and yet Menlo is different from that. And it really is based on a number of different principles about openness and transparency with each other, about supporting each other in the work. And so the room itself is very flexible. Tables that can easily be moved around, very lightweight. Pull down electrical from the ceiling so the tables can be put anywhere, and the team is in charge of the space. They form the space however they choose. We don't have to have a person who's saying, oh no, don't do this, you got to put it like that, it's got to be exactly organized like this. The team is fully in charge of the space. So there's that idea of autonomy with the team, that they can organize the space the way they need it. Now for all of our years, they've decided to push the tables right together, front to front, side to side. So if you see our team working, they are literally working shoulder to shoulder together in pairs. The pairs are assigned, and we switch those pairs every 5 working days. So now we always have to be keeping each other up to date. We have to be explaining to each other, what are we doing? So there's a learning component to our organization where we're always expected to share what we know with other people and to be open to learning from our pair partner in this. Working on the same task at the same time at the same computer. Not you coming and helping me, but rather us working together on this.
Most of the things you're talking about have a component of trust. I mean, you are trusting your people to do the right decisions at the right time, so they can do the decisions. The people or your workers are trusting you that you won't come one day and say, okay, just a joke, you're fired, and you're working double time. Something like that. You have a trusty environment. How long does it take for a new employee to realize that you're really serious about that, and he feels free and doesn't looking for the traps?
You know, I think everybody's different, and depending on what their previous experiences were. If they came out of a very difficult environment, this might take a little longer because they're waiting right? They're waiting for, you know, the boss to come down from on high and smack them or something like that, because maybe that's the way they were treated in the past. The only way we know how to build trust is through time together. It's one of the reasons we believe being all in the open space together is a trust building exercise. I'm right out in the room with everybody else. There is no corner office for the CEO. I sit at the same 5-foot table as everybody else. I think that sends a strong message to the team that this isn't just for you, this is for everybody. And you know, they'll often see me as a servant leader going around the room emptying the garbage cans. And you're like, well, wait, you're the CEO, you shouldn't be doing that. And I tell the team, I say, look, I would never ask you to do something I'm not willing to do myself. And so every day, you know, it's like when we raise children, right? There's the things we say to our children that has a very little effect, and then there's the things they see us do every day, which has great effect. And I think by the new team members simply watching the way things work at Menlo, they start to learn very quickly. Usually for us it takes between 3 and 6 weeks before people start to really understand that they've entered into a different world, a different kind of company, a different kind of culture.
Okay. At the beginning you mentioned that, again, in your focus is always the joy of the customer first, and of course, therefore...
Actually, I'm going to correct that just a little bit. The joy of the user. See, our customer, you know, it is a subtle difference. Yep.
Exactly.
Our customer is the people paying us to build software. The users are people we're likely to never even meet, right? We'll meet a few of them, so we learn from that type of person, but we're serving people who will never even know who we are. And that's really our focus, is we want to delight the end user, which is sometimes not even our customer's customer.
So your customer is the middleman between your software and the user.
Yeah,
so
or maybe even third of the way there, because imagine you build a software product, you know, we build it for you, you sell it to the world, but the people you sell it to aren't even the people who are going to use it, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then one day somebody shows up and says, oh, by the way, we have new software here. And the user is like, well, where did that come from? And who thought this was a good idea? And they start using it, and most of the time they get very frustrated with whatever piece of software it is, and they want to ask, like, hey, did anybody ever ask me how this was supposed to work? And the fact of the matter is, most likely not. Yeah. So those are the people we're trying to represent with our process.
But that makes it even more difficult for you to persuade your customer that you have the right idea of what their users will be needing, and you have to show them and to explain to them why you're working like that, because it's really transparent. You're talking about things you're doing at Menlo, and they have to be at least a little bit into the whole idea of a joyful surrounding. Is it difficult? Because, I mean, you're competing with other companies who are not like that, and probably are not more effective, but they claim to be more effective or to be cheaper.
You're right. Well, what you've described for Menlo, I bet you could exactly describe for SIPGate as well, right? You know, that your products are better than the competition. They're maybe they have to pay more, I don't know, but the fact of the matter is that the usage is less because they work better, they break less often, they're easier to install and that sort of thing. All of us are faced with the same challenge. How do we explain our core value to our customers in a way that they can understand it and value the difference between us and all of our competitors? And yes, it's hard. We have to explain. I think this is actually another place that storytelling comes in, because the stories we tell are not just to each other in the team, but to the world. Why do we do things the way we do them? What effect does this have? You know, one of the components of Menlo that's very unusual is this piece of Menlo we call high-tech anthropology, which is all about going out into the world, finding those users and understanding their needs, and then bringing that information back. So we're not actually arguing with our customers based on our intuition about design. We will argue with them on behalf of the users based on what we've actually learned, based on real data from the people who are ultimately going to touch this. That's a more powerful place to have an argument, because it's not us saying, we disagree with you, we think our idea is better. Our answer is, we've gone out and actually spoken with the people who are ultimately going to be the people using what we're creating for you, and this is the feedback they gave us. It's much harder to argue with that.
And I think it's good that you're a chief of storytelling. You can explain the things to the customers.
Yes, absolutely.
Final questions. Of course, really nice. The whole book is really, it's fun to read. It's really nice, and you get a lot of good ideas. At the end, you come to talk about problems. You start with, well, minor problems like who does the dishwasher and things like that. But you're talking also about some other major, or not major, but more relevant problems probably. For example, like growth.
Yep.
And also like payment and something like that.
Yes.
Can you just say a little bit what are your obstacles you still have to face right now?
Well, a lot of times people see a book like this, you know, it says Joy Inc. and how we built a workplace people love. I mean, how many business books have joy and love on the front title, right?
Not the successful ones.
Yeah, there we go. And now, you know, now you come in and you see us very passionate, enthusiastic. We really believe in what we're doing. And I always warn anybody who hears about us or meets us, we're not perfect. We probably have as many problems as any company does. We try and set up systems where we find them sooner so we can correct them while they're still small. But even in that, we're not perfect. And so the big problems that we are challenged with, the ones that we're working on actively, how do we make sure the team is communicating well with itself? You know, in a paired environment, interpersonal communications is incredibly important. And if we don't work on that all the time, then people aren't honest with each other, and if they aren't honest or they don't feel safe enough to be honest, then the trust doesn't form. So we work a lot on that. We're not going to get better as a team unless we can give each other serious feedback, but in a way that's actually helpful. Hopefully it's the truth, and hopefully we can deliver it in a way that can help the other person rather than just say, I have a problem with you, you need to go fix it. That's not helpful, right? That makes me believe that the problem is entirely you. We try and teach the team, why don't you look inside first? If you're having a problem with another person, why don't you ask them, hey, is there anything I've done this week that has bothered you? Why don't we first look inside ourselves and see if we're the ones? So those are some fundamental relational things we work on as a team. Those are really important. And then as a business, we're trying to figure out, how do we keep the entire team while they're doing their work connected with the business of the business? We're experimenting right now with open book finance, so everybody understands what the financials are of the company, because we believe that's healthy. We believe that kind of transparency is healthy for a company, because if you don't share that information, everybody makes stuff up in their heads, and they never make up a better story in their heads than the real story, right? They always make it worse. Oh, they're not sharing anything. It must be really bad. We must be going out of business next week, or I'm going to lose my job. And we don't want that fear in the company. And so, and in order to grow, the team has to be able to move faster than I can by myself. I can't be the chief decision maker where I become a bottleneck. You know, I'm traveling a lot. I speak a lot about the book. If everybody back at Menlo is waiting for me to make a decision, they're waiting till I get home. In some ways, the whole company was like we pushed a big pause button while I was away, and we'll wait until Rich gets back. But no, they're making decisions every day, but they're making them based hopefully on actual data of, you know, what does it take to run the company? What decisions are we making? And it's fun to watch because I'll catch, you know, a few emails that are going back and forth between us and our customers, and I see the decisions the team are making. And they're confident decisions, they're the right decisions, and I appreciate that they're making them without even asking me first. Okay, so to sum it up, you're still on the track to the perfect, but yes, we are. At least it's a joyful track. That's right. Yeah. It is. I will tell you, part of this journey for me was a selfish one. I wanted to create the company I wanted to go to every day. And, you know, I'm just delighted that there's a whole bunch of other people that want to go there with me. Great. Thank you very much, Rich. That is Joy Inc. I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, please subscribe to the channel, and as always, leave a comment below. Thank you very much. See you back.